to the table and lay your bets down. I teach at Humber College, and that's an ongoing thing, although this is the month where it all kind of the marks are in and the grades are done, and now it's just, end of semester meetings in order to see, what you'll teach next year and whether or not they're going to offer you a contract and, all the rest of that stuff. And, gigs, going out and touring and playing gigs. I drove down and played a couple of nights in Cleveland last week, and I've got a weekend off this week, but next weekend Dave and I are going to drive up to Tamworth, Ontario, and play a little gig there. And bouncing around, I'm trying to sort of squeeze as much as I can in because my wife and I are going to make a crazy trip. We're going to fly to Budapest, and then we're going to get on a boat, and we're going to go up the Danube River. I think it's up. I'm not sure. It's west, and I think that's up until we get to Prague. But Prague isn't actually on the river. Nuremberg is the last city that's on the river, and then you take a bus or a train, or I don't know. They haven't sent me my itinerary yet, but so it's like 13 days going up the Danube River in Europe. So.
We're talking to Rik Emmett. www.rickemmett.com, world traveler, world performer, and voted one of the 50th greatest guitar books around. That must have been kind of a unique thing for you.
Yeah, the whole guitar education thing, I kind of moved into it back door with Triumph becoming successful around 1980-ish, 79, 80 on the West Coast in the States, where Guitar Player magazine was located in San Francisco area. And then it was like, they do a feature on me, and in the interview, I suppose the fellow figured I was relatively articulate and didn't seem to be, drooling like most rock star guitar players do. And they said, hey, we'd like to give the magazine a little bit more of an international kind of flavor. How would you like to be a columnist? And so that started over a dozen years of writing the column. And then that sort of turned into, well, I'm not going to give the world the universe started becoming more digital. It became a question of, will you sign away your rights? We'd like to have every right for these columns that you write. We'll give you a few $100 a column, and that's it. And you're bought out for the rest of time. And I kind of went, yeah, you know what? I'm not comfortable with that. I think maybe I'd like to maintain my ownership of what I write. You can use it once, if you like, in your magazine. And so that was that. That was the end of that contract. But then I was able to take all of my columns, because they were mine, and turn them into guitar instructions. So I had a series of 4 books called For the Love of Guitar, which is now really just one little CD-ROM disc, but... yeah, that's kind of a nice thing to have somebody think of that. When I think of guitar education, I think of guys like Ted Green and Mick Goodrick, and there's just so many monsters of people that have written huge, more involved series on much higher levels than mine. But maybe that's just my good old Canadian modesty kicking in. It's nice to be thought of in nice terms by other people, though. It's nice to be nice to the nice, as the line in MASH TV show.
I remember that one. RickEmmett.com. You can get all this stuff, guitar book transcriptions, new music, Marco's Secret Songbook, and an acoustic, a new acoustic, relatively new, I should say, CD or digital download. A friend of mine calls them digital dumps. I don't know if you've heard that term before, but...
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been, sitting in front of my computer, and I felt like I'm in the digital dump. Because me and technology, we get along great.
So well. Marcos took a long time to record, and you did it Mike Shotton Studio, I believe.
Yep.
And the wonderful, talented Tony Daniels doing all the voice work. It's a songbook. It's a story, right?
Yeah, I'd always sort of had a notion that someday I'd love to try a concept album. And there were records from my own sort of teenage years that I really loved, the Moody Blues records that had spoken word, and Yes albums that kind of were symphonic in scope, and concept albums that told stories. Pete Townsend has come up with a few of those in his life that have done kind of all right, All right, so just the whole challenge of being able to try and create a narrative line, a narrative thread, hang music on it, try and have a storyline play out over time, then be able to, write musical themes, have melodies come back in different arrangements and in different ways, have overtures and aftertures and, just all of this kind of creative stuff, which was maybe, more along the lines of things that were enhanced by herbs and smoke and things in the 60s than in this century. But, I figured I'd give it a crack. And so Marco's thing kind of developed. I had some songs that kind of had some story, then little by little, then the whole idea of getting a narrator in so that the story would become, and it became unwieldy. I had probably, 3 albums worth of stuff, and the story, things were really long, and so then the editing process took a long time, too. So, everything took a long time, but I don't know. Part of something when you get to this age and stage in your life, too, artistic, creative point of view, you kind of think, legacy, what am I leaving behind? What is it that I've done in my life that I can say, hey, I'm proud of that? And then the bottom line is that it was nice for Marco's Secret Songbook that I was, as a songwriter, I was able to put some songs in there that I gave them a context. They don't necessarily always have, they can stand on their own. They don't have to have that context, but it was just kind of nice to create a story and put a song into that story so that it would have a context. And I don't know, that it just seemed like something I wanted to try and do before I, check out.
Okay. Rik Emmett, guitarist, singer-songwriter. We're talking about his new releases. And then you've got another one out called Then Again, and it's acoustic selections, performances of all your Triumph material. And we're going to get to some of that in a minute. What made you do that? What made you sit and go, you know what, we're going to go and record this? This is what I want to do.
Well, I've played gigs, all of my life. I never stopped. I left Triumph. I went out on my own. I played a lot with the band, and then as sort of times change and the demand, the amount of tickets I can actually sell in places kind of, diminishes over time to the point where you're playing smaller, more intimate places, but people still want to hear those songs, the songs that they loved that were part of the soundtrack of their lives back in the 70s and the 80s. And so, I never escape those songs. I'm never too far away from them. They come back into my life every couple of weeks when I got to play a gig. And of course, when I play those gigs, it's just me and Dave Dunlop, and, that's kind of how they sound. So, and when you play those gigs, then the only place you can sell CDs nowadays really is, people go to the merch table at the gig and go, yeah, I want some sort of a memory of this night. I'm willing to drop $20 and have a CD. So that was really the impetus. It was like Dave Dunlop said, hey, why don't we just go into my studio and we'll track this stuff, we'll cut it, it'll be nice and quick and simple and easy. It's not like you haven't sung these songs 10,000 times in your life. And then we'll have this. And then when we play gigs, we'll always have this thing, and we can sell it at gigs. And so that's why we did it. It's starting to sound a little more, money-minded than I really intended. I guess I'd love to be able to answer and say, oh well, my soul, and I was motivated by nothing but the pure spiritual values, but.
But that's the sign of a good song. It just stripped down, guitar, vocal, great lyric, and I think you achieved that with a lot of those tracks.
Well, certainly, I don't think I've ever abrogated my responsibilities as a musician. I think, as an artist, you're supposed to kick your own butt, and so even when I take on relatively straightforward kinds of tasks, like, the re-recording of songs that I've already covered, 10,000 times in my life, you think, well, let's make this worthwhile. Let's try and put some sort of new, fresh value, some kind of a perspective that it hasn't had before. That's almost like a given, really. But, like the gig I played last week in Cleveland, the guy that books the place, he goes, we'll get artists in here, and they're just going through the motions. They're having a little too much to drink. They get up on stage, and they just kind of sleepwalk through whatever it is they're doing. He goes, man, not you. Holy crap! You guys, you and Dave get up there and you really bring it.
Well, I can agree with that. I've seen you, for how many years I've been on the road and seen your shows and been a part of the team. And you've never done the same show twice, and always different songs. And even the songs that you do, you interpret them differently, or there's a different feel each night. So,
well, thank you, and it's lovely of you to say. And thanks, your check is in the mail. But I mean, I in all seriousness, I feel like. That's the only thing I know how to do. That's the only way I know how to do it. Like, I'm only doing what comes naturally to me, And, I mean, the joke would be, it's like, you see the guy and he's playing a game of fish on cards with his kids, and, he plays to win. And when he beats his kids, he's going, yeah, in your face, like, I am kind of the kind of guy that when I play, and whether it's a game or whether it's music or whatever, I mean, I want to give it everything that I've got, because I've only got one life, so when I do this one, I kind of want to try and get it right, and we all know that you can't, but at least you've got to try. I think it's in the trying that life. What's that famous John Lennon line? Something about life is what happens while you're busy making other plans.
Yeah.
But I think I'd like to be more conscious and more aware in my own life. I'd like to have more of an awareness of what my life is and be in the moments, as opposed to be distracted and have my mind be somewhere else,
Mm-hmm. We were definitely in the moment. I can't believe the time's running out. I got to get you back. I've got to ask a quick question. A whole bunch of people sent me messages, questions for you, and I want to get to the music here. I want to get to some new stuff and take a look at something else here. But okay, from Robert from Montreal. Since the reunion in 2008, fans have already repeatedly asked the question: when will Triumph be touring again? Given Gil's responsibilities, I've come to accept that there's a slim chance that that'll ever happen again. However, the question is, Triumph fans have not asked Rick, Gil, or Mike, will you ever walk into the studio again and record a new Triumph record? That's from Robert in Montreal.
Yeah, I kind of doubt that too, but I don't think there's anything standing in the way of it other than a good reason. Like if... I've always said with Gil, it's more a question of a golden carrot. Like somebody's got to come along, and there's got to be a good reason. And he already has a very full life in other ways. It was hard enough to get him to commit to, okay, I'm going to get myself back in shape to play drums and sing these songs again. And that's what I'll do, and we'll have reunion gigs. And I think he tried it, and then he went, yeah, that's not for me anymore. That was fun to do, and I'm glad we came full circle and did that, but don't want to do it anymore. And I think the idea of, going to the studio, recording, if it was going to be something easy, if it was going to be fairly straightforward, if it was going to be kind of simple, then it could happen. Certainly, there's nothing standing in the way personally between the three of us for something like that to happen. And I had a thought in the back of my mind with the Then Again album when I was re-recording the stuff with Dave. I thought, hey, maybe we should, just one of these tracks, like maybe Suitcase Blues or something. We should go into the Metalworks and get Mike and Gil and let's re-record that. That'd be kind of cool. But the planets never really aligned for that. It just never really happened. And then we were in a hurry to get the album finished and get it out. And we went, yeah, I can't coordinate that. So, well, I don't know. It's a good question. It's a nice idea, but it's never going to be a priority on anybody's list. It might happen.
Okay. Why don't we get to a little Then and Again? We'll do. You've been on the show 3 times, and the show's called The Magic Power Hour. And why don't we play the acoustic version of that and say thanks for joining us. Come back, check out the RickEmmett.com site, and you can check out the downloads and all the new music. And thanks, buddy, for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Nice talking to you. Geez, you're a real disc jockey now.
Dr. Johnny Fever, Booger. Okay, well, hopefully we'll see you soon. And thanks, pal, for dropping in and talking about all the new music. RikEmmett.com. Rik Emmett, thank you. You're a legend, and it's a pleasure to call you friend. That's for sure.
Thanks, pal.
All right, we'll see you soon, okay?
All right, man.
This is Rik Emmett on the Magic Power Hour, and the song is called Magic Power. Wow, conspiracy. Here we go.